Good morning. Actually, I would like to thank first of all the Sri team, Dr. Dineshan and GMOA for allowing me to have this session with you all. Most of you may be knowing me, and the introductory part said that what I am doing and what I am working. So we'll go ahead with the e-code related matters, the common things that I am going to discuss. Within 2 minutes, I'll tell that what are the benefits that you are going to get from uh, knowing about e-code matters. First of all, that most of our juniors, not only juniors, even the seniors, doesn't know exact things that is available in e-code, rules and regulations, and what are our privileges, what are our benefits. We don't know about these things. Because of this thing, we are facing a lot of difficulties during our day-to-day practice. Most of the time, we are getting harassed actually by senior people, sometimes the administrators, and sometimes maybe sorry for the technical matter. So because of that, some of us juniors and some of our doctors are facing these technical issues and these day-to-day harassments and all. And what I have been experienced during last few years of my practice is that knowing e-code things make you a leader, and you will be a leader in your unit, in your hospital, and even in your society. When you know about these common e-code things, the common e-code matters, the things that rules and regulations that you have to know. If you know these simple things, you will be a leader for sure. And the other thing is, uh, you will be not facing litigation issues, and you will be not facing these inquiries and all if you are a knowledgeable person about e-code related matters. So I'm going to discuss about few topics that is very commonly uh, experiencing in your day-to-day life and you will be facing. And most probably I will conducting this in both languages, in English and Sinhala. Okay, we'll go ahead. First of all, about the leave for medical officers. This is the most common problem that we are facing in every day. Most of the doctors are calling us and telling that leave approve करे නෑ, leave දුන්නේ නෑ, මට leave ගන්න විදිහක් නෑ, IMS leave දෙන්නේ නෑ. මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩක් හැමදාම අපිට කම්ප්ලේන් හැටියට එනවා. ප්‍රධානම හේතුව තමයි අපිට leave ගැන අවබෝධයක් නැති එක. අපි leave ගැන දන්නේ නැති එක. අපිට leave අපිට හම්බෙන්න තියෙන මොනවද, අපිට අයිති මොනවද, අපිට නැත්te මොනවද කියන එක අපි දන්නේ නැති එක. So because of that, I just start with leave. Leave is the largest topics in my slides here. So first of all, leave is not a right, but only a privilege, which means that leaves are not granted to you. අපිට ඕන වෙලාවට අපිට ඕන විදියට හිතන විදියට leave ගන්න පුළුවන් කමක් නැහැ. But ඒක අපිට තියෙන benefit එකක්. අපිට තියෙන වරප්‍රසාදයක්. So we have to have our privileges according to the given rules and regulations. So there are mainly 6 types of leave. First thing is casual leave. The අනියම් නිවාඩු කියන ඒවා. There are 21 days of casual leaves are eligible, so a given quota for us. And vacations leave, there are 28 vacation leaves. Usually for the other government offices, there are only 24 vacation leaves, but for us, we have 28 days. And we have leaves, we have maternity leave, and there is special leave quota as sick leave, special sick leave, and accident leave that have been described in the code. And we have the short leave and half day leaves. So why we have given 28 days of vacation leave instead of 24 is other government officers usually work for 5 days a week, but we work for 6 days per week. That is actually Saturday we take as a half day, but shift duty people, Saturday also full day duty. So as we are doing 6 days duty, we are given a quota of 28 days of vacation leave and casual leave 21 days. So I'll go through these types of leave in a brief. So if you have any questions, you can put it into the chat box. So I'll be getting the questions, I'll be answering at the end. So casual leave, you can have it only to spend within the island. Remember that by casual leave, you can't go abroad. There are certain people that I have known in my life. They have taken the casual leave on Friday and Saturday, gone abroad and come back on Monday and reported for duty without informing, without getting proper foreign leave. So what has happened is after 6, 7, 8 years, we know that we all get enemies when we are working in our units and hospitals and all. One of the known person that he has gone abroad on casual leave, unanimously petition ekak damma. Within 7 days, he got vacation of post VUP. No any inquiry, nothing, because there is nothing to be proved. If your passport is being checked, they know that there you have been traveled and you don't have approved leaves. So without any inquiry, they will be serving you with VOP. So because of that, keep in mind that you can't spend your casual leaves abroad. And you can't take casual leaves more than 6 days in a row. දවස් 6ක් තමයි එක දිගට ගන්න පුළුවන්. දවස් 6කට වැඩිය ගන්නවා නම් casual leave වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අනිත් එක තමයි you can't combine this casual leave with vacation leave or half day leave or other leave types. Only leave type that you can combine the casual leave is leave leave. Other than leave, you can't combine the casual leave with other leave types. And most importantly, you need prior approval. What E-code says is that you need approval prior to 7 days of commencing the leave. 7 days. So keep in mind that in practical situations, it will be not possible sometimes to give 7 days in advance notice. But you have to keep in your mind, the rule is 7 days. But in your institution, mutual understanding may be there, but still, however, you need prior approval. And definitely you need cover up. And you have to understand that whatever the leave type we are putting, we have to have the cover up. Unless sick leave also you have to arrange your cover ups, discussing with your head of the institution and head of your unit. Yeah, in all the other leave types, you need prior approval and prior cover up arrangements. And general 125 form is the approved form to take leave. In most of the government institutions, this is a common form that is available. But in certain places, I have observed that they have practicing a different form with all the cages that is available in this 125 form. However, the general 125 is the approved form for casual leave applying. And public holidays and Sundays and your off, the usual public holidays in the calendar will not be calculated if only the proper approval is taken. And if you have not taken your proper approval, it is not casual leave. So then the public holidays and all these things will be included into your leave days. Usually the Saturday is considered as half-day leaves for the people who are working in wards, field and non-shift duties. They will be taken as half-day for the Saturdays. But shift duty people, say you are working in ICU or you are working in a PBU, so you are doing a shift duty. So Saturday also considered as a full day leave, and even the Sunday also considered as a full day leave for the shift duty people. For others, it is half day for Saturday, and Sunday you have a off day. And to be eligible for casual leaves, there is no compulsory period that you have to serve in the government service. But in vacation leave, it is different. You have to work a certain period to get eligible for vacation leave. But for casual leaves, it is not like that. From the first day you have joined, you have the opportunity to apply for casual leave. But you have to keep one thing in understanding. During your probation period, that means the first 9 months of your service, you don't have the full quota of casual leave. That means you can't apply 3, 4, 5, 6 days of casual leaves per month. You are entitled only for 2 days per month casual leave. So keep it in mind, even though you don't have a compulsory period of serving for apply for casual leaves, within first 9 months, you can't get more than 2 leaves per month. If you are going to take more than 2 leaves a month, you will be becoming junior for the next transfer list. I think Dr. Prabhat is going to explain you of the transfers in subsequent sessions. He also will discuss about this. So keep in mind that during probation, during first 9 months, some of this audience may be in the first 9 months of service, you will be having only 2 days of casual leave per month. So then we'll go for the vacation leave. Vacation leave you can take either to leave, stay within the country, or you can travel outside. But keep in mind that just by putting vacation leave, you can't go abroad. If you want to go abroad, there's a special procedure that you have to apply for foreign leave. I will discuss in the next slide. So either within the country or outside the country, you can use vacation leave. And if you are using vacations leaves to be spent outside the country, public holidays and all the off days, Sundays, and all these things will be counted as your vacation leave days. Say you are applying for 7 days of vacation leave, even the Sunday is included to that. Even there is a POA day or PH, that will be also included into that. And you have to have 9 months of service within the department to be eligible for vacation leave. Prior to 9 months, you can't apply. And in each year also, this point most of the people doesn't know, within first 3 months, you can't apply for vacation leave. Only after 31st of March only, in each year. Every year, until 31st of March, you can't apply for vacation leave. Only after the 31st of March only, you can apply for vacation leave. And there's a thing called lapsed vacation leave that is for the vacations leave that have been lapsed during past few years. So if you want to take vacations leave that you have not been used during last 2 years to spend within the country, you can request for these vacation leaves, remaining vacation leave, but make sure to get the special approval that you need to get the approval from the health secretary to get this vacation leave used. So you can use up to 2 years, that is maximum of 56 days. Last 2 years unused vacation leave. And if you are planning to go abroad with this vacation leave, you can request for 3 years of remaining vacation leave, past 3 years. You can ask for past 3 years vacation leave. Still, you need the special approval from the ministry secretary. And these lapsed vacation leaves are granted only for the special reasons. It will be not granted for usual your trips and these things, and it is granted only for specific reasons. So I will list down the specific reasons that the vacation leaves, these lapsed vacation leaves can be requested. These are the 7 reasons that you can ask. That is, if your officer is sick, or a family member is having a grave illness, or if there's any death in the family, or any religious ceremony in connection with the above. If the officer is getting marriage, and if the 6th point is very valid for these days, if the infectious disease is the officer's household, or to attend a court in private matter, that you have to understand that it is a private court matter, then you can ask for this lapsed vacation leave. So usually within 1 year, you are granted only one time of this vacation leave, but still the health secretary can approve 2 or 3 times of this lapsed vacation leave if the reason is significant and if the health secretary is convinced that you are eligible for this. So these things most of the people doesn't know, and they don't utilize these things even if there is a need. So keep in mind that these are available for your utilization. A little bit controversial thing that people are getting confused with, because there is no such thing called sick leave in our leave category. When we are classifying our leaves, there is no such thing as sick leave. We have only casual leave, vacation leave, and those 6 types I said earlier. So sick leaves are specially given for people who are getting sick suddenly, which has to be deducted either from casual leaves or from vacation leaves. So when you are putting sick leave, keep in mind that your casual leaves will be deducted initially, and once the casual leave has been exhausted, then the vacation leave will be used for your sick leaves. So approving officer can decide whether the casual leaves or vacation leaves are going to be reduced. But first of all, what they do is they deduct it from your casual leaves. And you can inform your sickness to your head of the institution, head of the unit, and you have to arrange a cover up yourself, or you have to delegate someone else to cover up your duty. Say that if you are unable to cover up your duty, you can ask your consultant or your unit head or your departmental head that there is such thing that I have on call today evening, I can't come because of this thing. I'm sick, I'm going to apply for sick leave. So please arrange cover up. With the development of new technology, now even via SMS, email and telephone also you can inform your sickness. Earlier it was by telegrams. But one thing you have to be sure that the message has been delivered to the correct person. Sometimes we send an email and that email has been not checked for days and weeks. So there is no use of sending such emails. So please make sure that you are sending the message to the correct person and you are sending the message to a person that who has got the message correctly. And what the E-code says is that you have to inform your sickness within 24 hours of commencement of leave. But in our health sector, this is not practical because if we inform the next day of your leave, the on-call things and everything maybe has got jammed and patient has died and lot of problem in your place. So make sure that you inform your sickness before you start the leave and make sure that the proper cover-up arrangements has been arranged. And if you are applying for sick leave more than 2 days, a medical certificate has to be provided. And if it is the 2 day consequent 2 days, then medical certificate has to be provided. And your head of the institution can demand a medical certificate even for a single day of sick leave. And he can demand it from a government institution also. You are not required always to provide a medical certificate from government institution, but if your head of the institution demand for that, then you have to provide. The rule is like that. It should be from a government institution if the MS or director request for such thing. And after returning back to your duty, still you have to fill a 125 form according to the sick leave days that you have taken and submitted it after getting the proper approval. So I think you are clear about the sick leave. There is no such thing called sick leave for us. We have only casual and vacation. So when you apply for sick leave, your quota of vacation and casual leave will be deducted according to that. Okay, next we'll go for the accident or special sick leave. These are not very important, but I'm going through this. So if one of the officers has got accidented during working hours or at the working place, health secretary can approve a leave of 6 months, full pay leave of 6 months and half pay leave of another 6 months upon recommendation of a medical board. If the accident happened during working hours in the working place or coming to working place or leaving the working place. The other thing is if an officer contacted a disease, this is something important in this pandemic situation. During working, because of this working, during duty hours, because of the duty, if you have contracted the infectious disease, the Secretary of Health can apply 6 months of pay leave and 6 months of half pay leave. Still, it has to be approved by a medical board. And even if you get sick without relating to your workplace or duty, still the Secretary of Health can approve a suitable period of pay leave after approval of the medical board. And these leave are special leaves. They will be not deducted from your annual leave quota. So just keep in mind that these benefits are available for you. And whenever such scenario is available for you, just apply for these leaves and get the benefit. I'll go for the leave thing. This is also one of the controversial thing that people are getting misled and getting confused. So when you have carried out your duties during a public holiday, maybe a PH, maybe a POA day, maybe a Sunday, then as a leave day for that, because you have worked in a public holiday and a Sunday, in lieu of that, you can enjoy a leave day within a year of that specific date. Say you have worked last Sunday, that is say today is 29th. So say that you are working in next Sunday and you are not going to claim any PH allowance, any extra duty on that day. If you don't claim any PH or extra duty on that day, that Sunday, from that Sunday up to 1 year of duration, that period you can have a 1 day off. Make sure that you don't claim any PH allowance, any extra duty allowance for that day. Some of the subjects also in hospitals are not aware of this thing. Sometimes even for days that they have claimed for PHs and extra duties, they allow leave leaves, which is completely prohibited from the ECO. So if you are claiming extra duty or if you are claiming PH claim, you can't have that day as a leave leave. So from the date of PHO Sunday that you have worked, within a period of 1 year, you can claim this date. In the leave form, you have to mention that this is a leave taken in lieu of which date, the date that you have worked. And this leave cannot combine with foreign leave, but can local vacation leaves or casual leaves. So make sure that foreign leave you can't, but local vacation and casual leaves, you can combine this leave and take it. So next I'll go to the maternity leave, which is for the female officers. And make sure that it is compulsory that you take 4 weeks of leave after following a live birth. You can't report to duty before 4 weeks. Even if you deliver a baby within intern period, you have to take 4 weeks of leave. That is for the benefit of the baby and also for the benefit of the female officer. And you have 84 days of 84 working days of full pay leave. That is excluding public holidays and public holidays. And another half pay leaves of 84 total days. In these half pay leaves, the public holidays will be included into that. And there is another 84 total days of no pay leave. This also includes public holidays and Sundays. So make sure that the days are calculated properly. All three are 84, but full pay leave only, that public holidays will be excluded. And if there is any IUD or death of a baby within 6 weeks of delivery, you can have a full pay leave of 6 weeks. That is a benefit that you have been eligible. And there's a new thing called paternity leave that you can get 3 days of special leave within 3 months of your baby's delivery. I don't think that many people are not enjoying this benefit, but please take that one. It is available from the ECO. And I'll go for the short leave thing. Short leave and half day also, most of our medical officers sometimes misuse. Sometimes they don't use the available things that available benefits for them. So short leave is that less than 1.5 hours of leave per day. If you want a short break for something, maybe go to the bank or go to that thing, go to this thing and come. If it is the duration is less than 1.5 hours, then you can claim for a short leave. But make sure that only 2 times per calendar month you can claim for short leaves, not more than 2 times. If it is go beyond 2 times, it will be deducted as a half day leave. And there's a specially mentioned book that is available in most of the institution that you have to mention the half day leave, that short leave that you are taking. So keep a count that how many half days that short leave that we have taken. If it is more than 2, it will be a half day leave. If it is less than 2, I mean 1 or 2 short leaves, it will be deducted. It will not be deducted from your leave quotas. So make sure that it is 1.5 hours per time. And half day is the part of day leave. For get a half day leave, you have to work at least for 3 hours per day. If you have not worked for 3 hours, it will be taken as a full day leave. For this also, you have a separate book available in your hospital or institution where you have to place the signature and time and everything that you have come and departed. So half days will be calculated according to that. So if you take 4 half days per month, it will be deducted from you. Then how to fill a leave application form? I think you all have seen the leave application form. These general things. So general 125 is the leave application form. You have to fill all the cages. I think most of us are not filling all the cages. We leave some spaces. It is not correct. And in addition to that, you have to write about your leaves in the leave book that is available in your hospital. And for the foreign leaves, you have a general 126 form. That is a different form. I'll talk about the foreign leave in next slides. So that has to be And as I told you, local spend leave, you have to get approval prior to 7 days, and foreign leave application, you have to get approval. You have to submit it prior to 3 months of your expected date of leave. So any leave days, you can't claim extra duty or any other allowance. That means you can't have two privileges at same day. You can't have a leave and you can have a extra duty also. You can have a leave and you can have a PhD. So you can't claim like that. Only one privilege per time. So there are certain special leaves that has been included in the E-code. I think these are simple things I just go through. You can have less than 2 hours of leave for Muslim officers on Fridays, and less than 1 hour for study classes, that is promotional based study classes that have been approved from the ministry. You can have less than 1 hour per day. And to cast the election, the votes at election, you will be given leave according to the distance from your working place to your voting place, that is decided by the election commission. And health secretary can approve full pay leave for officers who are representing the country in international events, international sports events and conferences and so on. Trade union officials are allowed to get special leaves for this workers education course that is conducted by Labor Department annually. And you know that female sterilization, they are allowing 7 days, and male sterilization, they are giving 3 days. And also Muslim female officers, to observe their religious things, that they can have 4 months and 10 days leave. But these 4 months and 10 days leaves will be deducting from their remaining vacation leaves and remaining lapsed vacation leave. And if they are not available, the remaining days will be counted as no pay leave. Then we are going for this duty leave thing. Duty leave you can claim for government related events, conferences, negotiations, agreements representing the government. You can claim for duty leave. And volunteer officers in armed forces, yes, you can ask for duty leaves when you are someone for work. And in tribunals, in inquiries, in court proceedings, you can get duty leaves when you are representing an accused officer. And if you are functioning as a state witness, then you can have these duty leaves. Also, any other matter that the proper approval is available from your departmental head and DCHs. Then you can have this full pay study leave and no pay leave abroad. These things, some are relevant for some people, some are not relevant. So full pay study leave only for approved study courses, and obligatory service is twice as the period. So after you come back from your leave period, twice as you got the leave, you have to work for the government. And if you have taken leave less than 6 months for full pay study leave, then there is no such obligatory period of service. But if it is more than 6 months, then you have to work for twice as your leave period for the government. And if you are going on no pay leave abroad, most of the people are these days going for no pay leave abroad. You have to be a confirmed officer in the service. You can have 5 years of maximum no pay leave, and the maximum continuation period should be less than 3 years. You can't stay abroad more than 3 years. After 3 years, you have to come to Sri Lanka, report for duty, and then you can take the next 2 years. You have to have a break in between. And also, again, you have to have an agreement with the government that you are going to work for twice the period that you took the leave. If you are an unconfirmed officer, still you will be granted this no pay leave, but only for study purpose, not for employment purpose. Then you have to sign the agreement plus another bond with the government if you are an unconfirmed officer. Then we go for the foreign leave thing. You have to apply 3 months in advance. The general 126 form you have to submit in triplets, 3 copies. Proper cover up you have to arrange. Usually they don't allow more than 6 months foreign leave. It should be less than 6 months. But if you want more than 6 months, you have to have a special approval from your public administration secretary, PubMed secretary. And E-code says that until completion of 4 years of service, you are not eligible for foreign leaves. That is the rule. But still, even during the first few months of your service, short period of foreign leaves, the ministry will be granted. So there won't be such problem. Ministry will approve the foreign leave even your completion of 4 years is not there. But you have to submit the proper application with proper reasoning why you are leaving the country. And usually there is no extension of your leaves, the approval leave only. But still there is exception. The health secretary can extend your leave if it is really required. So before leaving and after returning, you should enter the things in a specific book. And you can't leave the country without getting the proper approval. Some people are leaving pending approval. I have applied, I will get the letter once I come. No, you can't. The rule says that you have to have the proper approval. Then I'll go for the next thing that I'm going to discuss. The leave thing I almost over. I have discussed almost everything about the leave and the time is also running. So I'll go for the next thing. The probation period, grade 2 and confirmation. What is probation? How you are going to get grade 2? How you are going to get confirmation? So probation period is the first 9 months of your post-intern date. Then the question comes, what is the post-intern date? Most of the doctors, I'm sure most of the doctors are confused with the post-intern date. What is the post-intern date? So until you are not given a verdict from a court of law saying that your post-intern date has been backdated or advanced or something like that, which happened for some post-intern batch about 4 years back, your post-intern date is the next date of your intern completion. Once you complete the intern of 5th of December, your post-intern date will be 6th of December. So make sure that you know, everyone knows your post-intern date, because each and every application that you fill in your life, you will be asked the post-intern date, even your leave application. So even you work for 6 months RHO period, 1 year RHO period, that doesn't matter. The post-intern date is next date of your intern completion. So from that day, first 9 months is your probation period, in which you can be expelled from your service without giving any retirement benefits. That means your pension and these benefits, nothing will be available if you are removed from the service within first 9 months. So make sure that you work very carefully and nicely and pleasantly and according to rules and regulations throughout your life, but especially in this first 9 months, because all the benefits of the government service will not be available if you are removed from the service within this 9 months. So after 9 months, your probation period will be finished, and then you will be having all the privileges and these retirement things, all these things, once you completed your 9 months of probation period successfully. And grade 2 is that according to our promotional scheme, there is preliminary grade, grade 2, grade 1 and specialist grade and administrative grade. So all of you will be recruited into preliminary grade after the internship. And after completion of 2 years from your post-intern date, if you have completed your EBA properly, that means if you have passed all the subjects in EBA, you will be promoted to grade 2 after 2 years of your post-intern date. So make sure that you are completing your EBAs in proper time, because EBA will allow you 4 attempts to preserve your seniority. That means usually 2 EBA exams will be held per year. If there is no any exception or any this pandemic situation or like that, usually 2 attempts per year. So you will be granted 4 attempts to preserve your seniority. If you can't go through the exam even within 4 attempts, usually you will be junior in the service. Your seniority will be your seniority will come down, because the other batch will be promoted to grade 2, but not you. So make sure that within 4 attempts you get through this exam, EBA exam. Some of you may be thinking that EBA subjects. No, it is not like that. EBA is extremely important. If you study in practical mind, not only for academic mind, EBA is very important. So you will be promoted to grade 2 after 2 years if you have completed the EBA in proper time. And confirmation is for 3 years from your post-intern date. Again, you know now, you know your post-intern date now. So you will be confirmed after 3 years, but your confirmation will be valid from the post-intern date. So say that you are completing your internship on 1st of January 2015. So you will be confirmed in the service 2018 1st of January with effect from 2015 1st of January. Even your confirmation letter comes after 3 years, you will be confirmed in the service from the date of your posting term. So all the privileges, allowances, arrears, and everything will be paid from the post-intern date once you are confirmed in the service. So what are the documents that need to be furnished to promote into grade 2 and to get the confirmation? These are the documents that you need. Make sure that your personal file is completed with these documents. If you are to be promoted to grade 2 or if you are to be get the confirmation, because of most of the doctors doesn't know that what is available in their personal file and what is not there. So when you are trying to apply for these grade 2 and confirmations, then only you know that this document is not there, my medical is not there, my income statement is not there. So the problem. Then you have to go to your intern place, you have to go to your post-intern place, then you have to go to Northeast Station and get done these things again from the people who are available at that time. So once you go after 3-4 years for these stations, no one in those stations know about you. They don't know who are you. Then they are reluctant to give you these documents. So make sure that these documents are available in your personal files. And once you apply for grade 2 and confirmation, these are the musts. So I'm not going to read all those things. Last one, ninth one is the EBA result sheets. This is, I just copied it from my, my application form. So these are the documents that you have to have in your personal file to apply for the grade 2 and confirmation. And personal file also, I'll speak few words. Personal file, there are 2 copies of personal files. One personal file is available in the institution that you are working, that will be moving to place when you are transferring from one place to the other. And the other personal file is available in the Ministry of Health with your subject clerk. Make sure that these 2 files are properly maintained, because usually you don't have access to your personal file unless there's a special circumstances. විශේෂයෙන්ම ඔයගලන්ට අවස්ථාවක් නැත්නම් personal file එක අපිට බලන්න බෑ. බලන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් you can talk to your hospital subject clerk, you can talk to the ministry subject clerk and make sure that your personal file is complete. And also keep in mind there's a personal file number in the ministry. In ministry, for every one of you have a personal file with a number, and you have a dedicated subject clerk in the ministry according to your surname starting letter. So know your subject clerk, know your personal file number, which will be much benefited in your future proceedings like this permit application, special appeal, that thing, this thing, everything. This file number will be important. So these things should be there in your personal file. First 7 things you know, I have told earlier also. Got more, other than that, the degree certificates, appointment letters, appraisal forms, disciplinary related documents, and all the document that any document that you have been served, a copy should be there in that personal file. So make sure that once you say that you have been sent a letter from the ministry, whatever the thing, you have to keep a copy in the personal file. Make sure with the subject clerk that a copy is available there. So other things I told you, know the subject clerk name and know the personal file number. Then there is a slide I make about the transfers, but I think transfer matters will be discussed in further sessions by Dr. Prabhat. Then because of that, I will not go into this transfer slide. Then I'm going to talk about the language allowance. Most of the doctors doesn't know about this language allowance and how to claim that and how much we are going to get. So language allowance is paid for proficiency of 2 languages, that you have done your A-levels and O-levels in one language and you have done your MBBS degree course in another language. So most of you have done your A-levels in Sinhala medium or Tamil medium and the MBBS in English medium. So 100% of you all are eligible for this language allowance. So you have to have your confirmation. Once you have the confirmation, you can apply for this language allowance. I have mentioned the documents that you have to submit. You have to submit the application form in duplicate, confirmation letter with a certified copy, A-level certificate, which has to in which the medium of A-level has to be mentioned, whether it is Sinhala or Tamil or whatever the medium. Then you have to your MBBS degree certificate, and you have to give evidence that you have done your degree in an English medium or whatever the medium different from your A levels. So most of the degree certificate or this transcript that is provided from the faculty has mentioned the medium of course. So you can mention that. Otherwise, you have to get a letter from your faculty saying that your course of MBBS has been conducted in English language. So you will be paid 5,000 rupees one-time allowance and monthly allowance equal to your last increment plus 150 rupees. Usually, yeah, last increment, it is sometimes the increment is more, so most of the time it is more than 1,500 these days. So you will be getting about 1,800, 1,900 per month and a one-time allowance of 5,000. And once you applied for this language allowance after the confirmation, so arrears of 3 years will be paid at once, which is a large amount. From the date of your post-intern date up to the confirmation, for 3 years, they will pay the arrears and the one-time allowance. So make sure that you all apply for this thing and you get all these things once your confirmation is available. Then the Janapriya Matruka vehicle permit. So this is this is a privilege that you have been granted. Time to time, these conditions, interest, the tax rates and policy related matters get changed. You know that these days they are not allowing to import any vehicles and utilize these permits. So this is governed by the Trade and Investment Policy number 1, 2018 and further amendments. And you are eligible to claim for your first permit after 6 years with internship. Earlier, this internship was not considered to get the first permit, but after the intervention of GMOA, after certain communications and discussions, we could include this internship also into that, because without internship, sometimes certain badges have lost their permits. So now internship plus another 5 years of post-intern, altogether 6 years, you can claim for this permit. So then after first permit, every 5 yearly you can claim for this permit. This is the current regulation. This may change in future. And for the next permit, I mean the second or third or fourth permit, the 5 years is calculated from the permit issued date. Earlier it was calculated from the LC opening date, but now the circular and the rules has been changed. So you are allowed to claim for the next permit from 5 years of last permit issued date. permit එක ඉස්සර නම් permit එක අරගෙන අතේ තියාගෙන හිටියොත් පාඩුයි. LC එක open කරේ නැත්නම් මොකද ඊළඟ permit එක ගන්න වෙන්නේ LC එක open කරපුව දවසේ ඉඳන් අවුරුදු 5කින්. But now the things has been changed. LC එක issue permit එක issue කරපු දවසේ ඉඳන් 5 years වලින් ඊළඟ permit එකට you are eligible. So you have to take one thing into your mind. You need to have a LC copy with you for the application of next permit. ගොඩක් අය සමහර අය permit එක විකුණලා සල්ලි ගන්නවා, සමහර අය permit එක use කරලා vehicle එකක් ගන්නවා. මොකක් වුණත් you have to have a copy of your LC, because for the next permit your LC number, LC opening date and all these things will be asked. So make sure that you keep a copy. You ask for a copy from the bank. For the first permit, you have to have these documents: application form in duplicates, grade 2 appointment letter and confirmation letter. And for subsequent permits, you have to submit your NIC copy and LC confirmation letter from the bank. When you request a letter from the bank, they will provide a letter. To get this LC confirmation letter, you have to have the previous LC number, LC opening date, LC opening bank, LC opening branch. So make sure that you have a copy of LC to apply for the next permit. Then I'm going to talk about the government property loan, which is a common topic these days because they have reduced the interest rates and now it is available for very low interest rates. So as the Public Administration Circular 15/2007 and the further amendments, government officers, government servants can apply for this property loan under special interest rates. You need to have your confirmation, and the maximum amount is 3 million or compound salary of 7 years, whatever the highest of this. It will be either 7 years compound salary or maximum 3 million. You can have a payback period up to the retirement. And property, whatever the property that you are going to buy or develop or whatever it is, you have to keep it as a security to the bank. And interest rates are subject to change. These days, recently they have reduced the interest rates because time to time, according to the country's policy rates, they are changing these interest rates. So these days, they are providing first 5 lakhs for 3%. You have to pay only 3% for the first 5 lakhs. And for the next 5 lakhs, it is 4% or something like that. Let me show you the circular. Can you see the circular?
Yeah, now we can see.
Yeah, this is the latest circular that have been issued on December 15th. These are the new interest rates that you are going to get. 3% from your income up to 5 lakhs, then 6% for the next 5 lakhs, and next 20 lakhs, 7%. So these amounts will be paid from the government. So if you are confirmed in service and you are willing to buy a property or develop a property or build a house or anything like that, then you can ask for this loan. And there is a waiting list. So through your hospital director, you have to apply for this thing. Okay, that's about government property loan. Then there is a problem with designated posts, whether your designated post can be changed or whether your designated post has to be preserved. When you are given a designated post, it can be changed only if you are given your consent. Even your head of the department or MSO director can't change your designated post on their own. They have to get your consent. Further, they have to have the approval of Director General of Health Services also. You can't just go through and tell that you are MOPD, now you have to go and work in the surgical unit. 3 things that has to be fulfilled. Justification of service requirement should be there. Of the concerned medical officer should be there, and the approval of the Director General of Health Services should be there. Only with these 3 things, your designated post can be changed. So if someone is trying to change your designated post against your will, you can object that. You can tell that I am not willing to change my designated post. Because the problem is that in subsequent transfer list and replacement list and everything, your replacement will come as the designated service post, not according to the changed one. So if you are not getting your approval from the DG, you will be not getting your replacement in further transfer list. So make sure that you get the DG approval and you give the consent, and there's a proper justification from the service requirement side also. Then you can change your designated post, otherwise not. Then another common thing, private practice. I'm going to brief about this. The governing circular is 299 in 1999. You can do your private practice after normal working hours. That is 8 AM to 4 PM is your normal working hours. Problem is some people are doing private practice in 12 to 2 also. Make sure that you can't do 12 to 2 private practice. You can do private practice only after your proper working hours, that is 8 to 4, or your shift duty. If you are doing a shift duty after your shift hours, you can do. And make sure that you don't do private practice during sick leaves, because it is prohibited. You can't do private practice during sick leave. And during casual leave and vacation leave also, you can do private practice only after normal working hours. That is before 8 AM or after 4 PM you can do. But because of your on leave, you can't do private practice in daytime, in your working time. And private practice within government institution and even within government quarters is strictly prohibited. You can do private practice only within the province that you are working. If you are working in a working station, within that province only you can do private practice. and you can't use your official designation. If you are SHO Pediatrics, you can't use SHO Pediatrics designation in your private practice. Make sure that, because most of the pediatric people are using this official designation, which is violation of the E-code. And you have to possess your SLMC ID all the time. When someone comes and asks for the SLMC ID, you can't tell that it is at home. You have to provide your SLMC ID. And these things I don't have to tell, even hospital stationery, facilities, drugs, consumable are using for private practice is completely private. So I'll show you the private practice circular also. This is the private practice circular, which is 1999. Whatever I told in the previous slide, it is available here. You have to go through this circular. If you don't have this circular, I'll make sure that these things will be emailed to you in subsequent after this session. This is the private practice circular, page 1, and I'll show you the next one also. This is the complete circular, which has been signed by the Secretary of Health. This is the governing circular, the last one. So you have to work according to this. Next, I'm going to talk about the official quarters. These also having problems all the times. Quarters problems are there. So I'm going to just brief about this. My time has already elapsed. So proper housing committee should be there in each and every hospital, which should include all categories. I mean the medical officers, nursing officers, administrative officers, hospital director, and everyone should be there. And there should be a transparent marking scheme that will be available there. That transparent marking scheme should be fair for every category. And according to a waiting list, according to the marking scheme, you have to allocate your official quarters. And the period that has been allowed to stay for one family or one person is 5 years. For every 5 years, you have to change the quarters. It should be given to a new person according to the wait list. And the quarters rent is 10% of your compound salary if you are a married officer. And if you are an unmarried officer, it is 5% from your compound salary. And if both husband and wife are government servant, 10% from your higher salary person and 2.5% from the lower salary person. So these are the rent that you have to be paid. Then the last one I'm going to talk is official communication, which is very important. Actually, our doctors, most of the doctors doesn't know the communication channels and doesn't know how to write an official letter. So that is why this topic has been included to this one. So every communication has to be followed through the proper channels. Proper channel means if you are writing a letter to the Director General of Health Services, you can't just write to DGHS. That letter should go through your head of the institute, through your head of the unit, through your head of the institution. If you are under a RD or PD, it should go through RD, it should go through PD, then only the DGHS. You can't directly address a letter to DGHS. So the addressing should be properly managed according to the hierarchy. So if you are writing to DGHS should be top. Then through this person, through this person, through this person, through this person, I am writing to DGHS. So that letter should go through those channels to reach the DGHS. Otherwise, the validity of this letter is not there. And every letter should be numbered and dated according to properly. The number should be there, a date should be there. And if you are writing a letter telling about the previous communication, that you are writing a letter, that you have sent a letter previously also, and now you are writing another letter, you have to refer the previous letters correctly. You have to you have to mention about the date, number, according to previous date, these letters, I am writing this letter. And the topic should be very specific, and usually official communication one letter should be confined to one topic. You can't write 20 topics in one letter. So you should confine that one letter is only about one subject, and the topic should be very specific and very confined. And if there are any annexures, you have to annex those annexures according to the dates. And if you are sending any copies, I show you example. If you are writing copy, sending copies, all those copies should be countersigned by the sender. And in the envelope, you have to mention the topic on the left top corner. I just show you a letter that recently we have been prepared. This is not any secret letter. This is a yeah, this is the letter that I am going to give you the explanation. So there is the proper right hand corner. So all the others used to but now the norm has been changed. Everything should be aligned to left margin. You can't have spaces in these places. So this is the address. We have addressed the letter to the addressing person, and you have put the dear sir or dear madam, whatever it is, and the topic should be very clear and specific. And this is the I told that previous communication should be referred according to this number, this letter, date, this dated letter. And these are few communications that we have made previously about this same matter. So we are referring all these things and we are annexing those documents at the end. And this is the letter that we have done according to the left margin we have done. And here we have signed it. And these are the copies that we are going to put. So if you are putting a copy to Honorable Governor, at this place you have to do the countersigning. You have to countersign at the beginning of the name, and all the copies should be countersigned in the copies. So this is the official way that you should write a letter. Make sure that your communication is done properly, because if doctor can't write a proper letter to official letter, then who can? So your dignity, even the reader will think about your personality, your capability, your communication skills and everything by reading your letter. So make sure that official letters are sent according to the given protocols through proper channels. So these are all things that I have been thought of talking about you, and I've got a few questions. I'll go through those things in quick time. So if I had taken medical leave for 5 days during RHO period, will it be a problem? If it is a solution, and if you can provide a approved medical leave from government institution, this is not a problem. It will be deducted from your annual leave quota once your probation period is over. So medical leave, if you have proper approval, if you can provide a proper government medical, and you are head of the unit and head of the institution is convinced that you are truly having this problem, that is not a problem. Then ask, can we apply for OT during duty leave? No. During any leave, you can't apply for any other allowance that I told you. Two benefits cannot be combined at one place. Extra duty or PH claim or whatever, you can't apply during duty leave. Our batch post-intern date is 16th June 2009. We only will be getting our attempt for EBA before the second year. So that is an exceptional case. For these recent batches, the RHO periods and RHO period extended because of this government issues and pandemic issues and this item and all those problems. The RHO batch period was extended. And because of this countries, because of these things which are out of control of you all, because you are not, it is beyond your control, these things will not affect your seniority. So confirmation, grade 2 and everything will be done due time without disturbing your seniority, because of it is not your problem. It is policy related things. When we are eligible for sit for EBA, post-intern, when we are eligible to sit for EBA after post-intern date. Actually, after post-intern days, next available EBA you can sit. Whatever the available EBA, you can sit for the next EBA. Postgraduates, there is a period of service that you have to complete. But for the EBA, Next available EBA exam you can apply after the posting term. What is the compound salary? Compound salary is the salary without your variable allowances. Say that you are having basic salary plus certain allowances in your salary slip. You have pensionable allowance, non-pensionable allowance, telephone allowance, then PH allowance, extra duty allowance. All those allowances are hanged into your basic salary. So basic salary plus fixed allowance is the compound salary. Variable allowance are not there. So basic plus fixed salary, fixed allowance that you are going to get this allowance every month. That is a fixed allowance. So basic plus fixed allowance will be your compound salary. How anytime we can apply for government property loan. Government property loan we can apply only for if the husband and wife both are eligible for government property loan. If both husband and wife are eligible, then both can apply. But if there is a waiting list, the priority will be given for the higher salary person. So make sure that if both are eligible, you both can apply, but priority will be given for the higher salary drawing person. And during your service period, if you have completed your, usually what happens is you take property loan, you get the payback period until your retirement. So you are not allowed to apply for another time. But if you have completed your property loan in due time, if you have before that, let's say that you have taken the property loan and you have completed it 5 years, then again you can apply for a property loan. There is no such problem. But practically what happens is you don't have that privilege because you get the payback period up to your retirement. But if you have the time, then you can. Then one person asked about the Sundays and PHS about the during maternity leave. That I mentioned you correctly. If there are any Sundays or PHS, during full pay leaves, these are excluded. So 84 days are calculated without Sundays and PHS. During half day leave and no pay leaves, these Sundays and PHS will be included into, that means total days, 84 total days. In full pay leaves, it is 84 working days. In half pay and no pay, it is 84 total days. Any other questions? There are another 2 questions. I'll wait for them also. Although I have been allowed 40 minutes, I have taken about 55 minutes now.
Dr. Tenwan, they are asking whether the no pay leave affect their no pay during maternity leave affect their seniority.
No, actually the maternity leave, whether it is half pay or full pay or whatever it is considered as a service period. Full pay, half pay, no pay, all are considered as service period. So no pay leave does not affect the seniority.
Then again, they are asking the maternity leave affect the date of becoming grade 2 confirmation.
No, that doesn't affect. Maternity leave does not affect anything that related to your seniority, grade 2 confirmation, permit, your transfer eligibility, north and east, nothing will be affected from your maternity leave. They are asking, is language allowance still available? Yes, still available. Still you can claim for that. You can apply for that if you are confirmed in the service. If you have those documents I mentioned, then you can apply for the language allowance. They will be paid. Does no pay that I told you. You join a property loan approved by ministry. Yeah, the property loan, once you apply for these property loans, where if you're working in a line ministry institution, it will be sent to the ministry and ministry will be approving the thing. And if you're working in a RD or PD hospital, that is the provincial hospital, the things will be go through the RD, PD and governor, and it should be approved from the provincial council. Provincial administration only it will be approved. So if it sometimes all the things like permit and everything will be like that, no. So you have to apply through your PD and RD, and it will be approved from your PD and RD and governor. And the line ministry things will be approved from the line ministry. There's another problem. Although there's a rule that private practice can be done only in the province you are working. We so many private practice. Yeah, that is a problem. That if you have read the newspapers yesterday, there are 40,000 quacks working in Sri Lanka. Our Dr. Haritha was telling in the press, 40,000 quacks not the doctors. So they are also doing private practice in our vicinity, and we don't do anything for them. And you're asking about the doctors who are doing private practice outside their province. There are many, many doctors who are crossing the province and doing private practice for their financial gains. That is completely prohibited from your rules and regulations and e-code. You can't do like that, because recently I got, as I am coordinating the central province, I am getting a lot of complaints because central province and Uvo province is having a margin. So Uvo people come and do PP in central people come go and do in Uvo. So which is prohibited from the rule. So if there is any such thing violating the rule, you can complain that. So if you are keeping blind eyes and without doing anything, thinking that this fellow is a friend of mine and those things, and I should not do anything like that, then it is a business of you all. But the rule and regulation states that you can't work crossing the border. You can't work in another province of your working station. So if there are such people, please make a complaint and they will be dealt accordingly.